Welcome into episode 2 of the Storm the Sky podcast. I'm your host, Bryson Lester. Thanks for being here with us today. Before we get going with Coach Simon here, wanted to thank our presenting sponsor of today's podcast, Best Western. Thunderbird fans, if you're traveling in from out of town, be sure to book your next stay at Best Western Plus or Best Western Town and Country Inn. Both are conveniently located only a few blocks from campus and offer a 20% SU discount. Once again, that's a Best Western, our presenting sponsor here for episode 2 of the Storm the Sky podcast. And now let's get rolling here with Coach Simon. Episode 2 of the Storm the Sky podcast is a go here, hanging out with Coach Todd Simon of the Thunderbird men's basketball team. Coach, thanks for hanging out with us today for this one-on-one interview. Excited to have you in here. How are things going today?
Fantastic. We had a great team workout. You guys getting better every day, and really enjoying working with this group. A lot of enthusiasm, great energy, great effort. So great practices make for great days.
That's awesome. Been about a month, right, since the guys got back on campus and were able to start doing some workouts here at SUU and getting back going, right? It feels like it's been a long time. Maybe it hasn't been that long, but
yeah, we obviously it's kind of a unique year, so timing and days of the week feel a little different than normal, but it's been fantastic. And we're really fortunate that we've been able to proceed with obviously all the COVID precautions and doing everything the right way, but our guys are very mature and have been handling themselves well.
We had Dre on the first episode last week. He came on, absolutely crushed it, and gave everybody a really good perspective of what these athletes have gone through since March. And it's been a wild ride for them. So it's nice to be able to have them here and back in their natural environment a little bit.
No question. And here we always feel great because we can provide them a good structure, good care, and we're very closely monitoring them. And as a parent, you want that for your kids. You want them to be safe, and I feel like we do an outstanding job. Our medical team and our trainers all do outstanding jobs.
On these one-on-one interviews, we have a lot of things we want to hit, but one of the bigger things is just kind of a career retrospective, looking back to where you've been, what got you here to Southern Utah. So I'll kind of start with this. And, when you look back on your career as a coach here, when was kind of the moment that you realized that this was kind of the path for you moving forward? When did coaching become the career path for Todd Simon?
I mean, it's funny. Even when I was a kid, I remember back being 6, 7 years old, I'd take the G.I. Joe guys and line them up in football formations or basketball formations. And just watching growing up, we had so many influences, back in the heart of the bad boy Piston era where they were fantastic and kind of caught the imagination of Michigan. And Magic Johnson was in his prime, who was, pride of Lansing. And so you had a lot of connections at an early age. And, as I got a little, older, I kind of realized that, this is a passion. I really enjoy that. I enjoy teaching, first and foremost. I love teaching young people, and I love basketball. And it was a natural, combination of the two to pursue as a profession.
What was the first coaching gig? What was it? High school? Was it on the college level? What was the first one?
You know what? The very first one would have been at the high school level. I was JV head coach at Harrison High School in Michigan, and so that was the first real time as a head coach necessarily, where you stand in front of the team, and this is going to go however you direct it to go. And so those experiences were outstanding. I think I was 20 years old at the time. And I don't know if they knew I was 20 years old, but I was 20 years old and in college, and the guys in front of me were probably not much younger than me, but that kind of got the start, and kind of seeing the growth was fantastic.
What kind of advice would you give to aspiring coaches at that age, just coming out of college? What would your words of advice be to people in that position that want to break into the industry and are just trying to get a foot in the door?
Number one, you have to be about it for the right reasons. If you're genuinely about people and developing young people, and if that's your passion, you're going to have some success. And number two, you have to work on your craft. If you want to be a coach, you have to coach, and you have to, whether it's a youth team or, a junior high team, whatever it is, you need to coach. You need to get out in front of and teach and explain and help, refine your craft. How are you going to get messages across and be an effective leader and teacher? And then, number three, you need to surround yourself with the right people, and that will develop you, will push you, get you outside your comfort zone. And I think if you don't do those things, you're going to have success. Because the opportunities, you don't get ready for an opportunity after it arrives. It's all about having your preparation done so that when the opportunity arrives, it's a layup. And that's part of this whole journey is just staying ready for the opportunities that float across.
Taking a quick break here to tell you about Pallet Bakery. Pallet Bakery is a proud sponsor of the Storm the Sky podcast. Pallet Bakery and Ice Cream Parlor offers special promotions to SU students and staff. Just show your school ID for buy one, get one half off. Pallet Bakery is located at 255 North Main Street, across from Main Street Park. Once again, Pallet Bakery, a proud supporter of the Storm the Sky podcast. I love talking to you about the Findlay prep experience, because obviously, that's a time where you really got your name out there, put your name on the map, and you worked with a lot of guys that have gone on to play at the highest level of basketball. So when you look back at that time period, what are some of the standouts? And, when you turn on an NBA game and see some of those guys that you coached at Findlay Prep, kind of what feelings do you have?
Yeah, that's exciting. I think everyone kind of figures out what they're about. I always say one of my greatest joys in doing what we do is kind of seeing small fish become big fish, so it's fun to see guys that were, sharing, a bunk bed, like a Corey Joseph and a Tristan Thompson, and all of a sudden, they're having tremendous success and becoming, leaders on a national stage and winning championships. So seeing that journey and seeing those guys flourish, not just on the floor. I mean, they're doing great things on the floor because of who they are off the floor, but having that time period where you're a part of their life and maybe shaping a small portion of them or steering them or just having that time together is special.
When it comes to that, obviously these kids have such high aspirations, when they're at the high school level. NBA is the goal, 1 year in college, and then they're moving on. How, as a coach, do you try to help them through that process and shape their mindset as they get ready to make that transition?
Yeah, I mean, so much of it is about consistently pushing and nudging them out of their comfort zone and staying consistent. I think there's so many that can be great at any given point in time, but who can consistently do it, it becomes kind of the separator. And, and I think that's where coaches come in. Our job is to push people beyond what they believe they can maybe even achieve. And, so that motivational piece of it, I think, is a huge part of it. And, but knowing their craft. I mean, players also don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and I think if they feel like you're investing them in as a whole person and developing them as young men and trying to do right by them, they're going to be more apt to be receptive to learning.
Obviously, you moved from Findlay Prep to UNLV, where you had a stint before that, but associate head coach at UNLV, become the interim head coach your last year there. Kind of talk me through the challenges of that year and, what it was like taking over a program in the middle of the season and trying to get them down the home stretch there.
Yeah, certainly an emotional roller coaster, and you really, anytime you go through moments of adversity, and obviously, we were in such a unique place with the in-season change and having so much success early in that year, where we beat the Big Ten champion, we beat the Pac-12 champion, and then had a little dip and changes made, and now your job is to land this plane and do it in a good fashion, and so you start to really prioritize. One of my big themes is make the main thing, and cut out the outside noise, and that was a big deal for us that year. We owed it to the players, we owed it to the program, we owed it to ourselves to do right by everybody, and try to do our jobs every day, teach, instruct, coach, do the whole thing. And I was proud of our staff and our collective effort in doing so, as the adversity continued to kind of hit with a lot of the injuries. I mean, we get 1 point finished a game with 5 total players, and so it was very unique. We were adding guys off the street that hadn't been part of the team, and they were playing major minutes. And so it was a unique situation that we were able to find some success and make some memories with.
When you get to that point, you're a D1 head coach for the first time, that should be a big moment. You celebrate, get together with your family. Did you really even get an opportunity to do that, or was it just kind of like, oh, the change is made and we're right back into practice that afternoon?
It's such a unique deal because Coach Rice was such a dear friend.
Yeah.
I was very, very loyal to him. So it was as an assistant coach, there was a bit of a feeling of, hey, we didn't get this job done for my boss, and so there was, on this flip side, it's like, hey, this is great. This is not probably how ever anyone envisions, getting their first gig. That's not necessarily the way you want to do it, but there was no time to dwell on any of that. It was, this is the decision. You're in the pilot seat. We got practice in 2 hours. We got to do this right, and so we did. And there's no time for the emotion of it. It was time to do what we're supposed to do, and if we focused on that, I think it was making the best of the situation for sure.
Fast forward a little bit to that next spring, summer, and you become the head coach here at Southern Utah. Jason Biedekofer, AD at the time. What was that process like, and what drew you to Southern Utah?
Yeah, it was a unique situation. Had a few scenarios, kind of spanning all over the college basketball landscape that we kind of looked at. But one thing that was such an intriguing draw to Southern Utah was the upward trajectory. I felt like that was here, and Cedar City is a type of place that we wanted to raise our family, and I thought the quality of people and the quality of this community was a major draw, but also the leadership that President Wyatt and the athletic administration had, and the vision that they had was kind of aligning for what I enjoy. I enjoyed the building process. I enjoyed our time at Finley, kind of creating something that wasn't prior. And I thought, hey, there's a lot of similarities here, that this is a blank canvas. They wanted to kind of restart and kind of proceed forward with some ideas toward the future, and that's what really drew our attention here, and we haven't regretted it for a day since.
Taking a quick break here to tell you about Bullock Drug. Thank you to Bullock Drug for being a proud sponsor of Southern Utah University Athletics and the Storm the Sky podcast. Bullock Drug is located in downtown Cedar City, and Township Pharmacy is located near the hospital just off North Main in Cedar City. All your prescription needs and much more can be cared for at both locations. Bullock Drug and Township Pharmacy, proud supporters of the Storm the Sky podcast. And now back to the show. Obviously, this is the official SU Athletics podcast, so we'll sugarcoat some things, but that stretch before you and your staff got here, not exactly a shining moment in the history of SU basketball. What were some of the biggest struggles, of taking over a program, that was struggling to get W's on the board for 4 or 5 years there straight?
Well, I mean, college basketball is tremendously difficult. It's hard to win one game, much less a lot of games. And so, I think anytime you're coming in new, it's a change of course. It's different philosophies, different levels, of accountability, or different things that you're accountable for, as opposed to a different list of things you're accountable for. And just that simple change is uncomfortable. It's not easy. You're talking about a lot of personnel, a lot of roles changing, a lot of things go in the air, and not everyone gets to stay on the ride, and that's part of what competitive athletics is. And as you go along, we've been very fortunate to have players that gave us their blood, sweat, tears into this thing, and staff as well. And when you have that collective effort, that's how you kind of turn things around and start pointing it into a successful direction. And I think that's where we are now. I think we've laid a foundation. Now it's time to really have the fruits of our labor show through the next few years.
From a personal standpoint, I know I'll never forget that triple overtime tournament game your first year here. And from the outside looking in, that kind of felt like kind of a turning point, for you guys. And, kind of go back to that night in Reno a little bit. SU wins its first Big Sky tournament game in 3 overtimes. I think it ended around midnight Pacific time, probably the only game going still in the country. Just what are some of your memories from that contest?
Yeah, it was wild. What made us most proud was we were fighting to the very end. Yeah. We were struggling that year. We established a culture that we were never going to quit. That we were going to, teams were going to have to come fight us. We might not be able to put the ball in the basket as well as other teams, or might not be able to, get the stops that we needed all the time. But at the end of the day, you're going to feel our program. And we were going to establish that. And I thought that was a prime example here in, game 30 plus. You're in a conference tournament. Everyone's kind of written you off a little bit. And our guys just absolutely laid it out on the floor. Just refused to quit, refused to go down easy. And, by the third overtime, fourth overtime, we were ready to go. And I felt like our guys were as enthusiastic and energetic at the end of that game as they ever were in the entire season. And as a coach, you want your program always on an upward trajectory for the year. And that's what's something that we've been proud of here. We've won tournament games every year, and we feel like we're a program that can peak when it's championship winning time.
In 2018, kind of on a personal level, you get to take a couple road trips, one to Michigan State, another to Central Michigan, your alma mater. From a personal standpoint, how gratifying was it to go back to those places, as a head coach of a Division I program?
Yes, I mean, it was somewhat surreal. These are special places, and to have those opportunities to go, were places that were important to me along my journey, and be able to coach in those arenas against legendary Tom Izzo, who's been so good to me, and on the Central Michigan floor where I went to school, and different places along the way. It was pretty unique, but also pretty inspiring. It's like, hey, hopefully there's someone back in my hometown or small town America that says, hey, you know what, I can do this. Look, he did this, and look, you can set your mind to something and maybe achieve it, and you don't have to put a cap on what your dreams are. And so some of those spots were reminders, even though at the time you're so focused in the moment, you don't necessarily always see those things. But in retrospect, it was pretty special.
Taking a quick break here to tell you about Pioneer Floor Coverings and Design. Pioneer Floor Coverings and Design Center is the premier flooring provider in Southern Utah. Stop into their Cedar City store located on Sage Drive to find amazing prices, unique design options, and incredible service for all your flooring needs. Pioneer Floor Coverings and Design, a proud supporter of the Storm the Sky podcast. And now back to the show. That's something as a program you haven't shied away from playing anybody. There's always a long list of Power Five or big time programs on the schedule every year. This year's no different. Is that just part of your coaching philosophy? You gotta at this level gotta get in and play those big boys to get that type of experience.
Yeah, no, I think that's just kind of who I am, the type of player I want, type of program that we want to be. And that's kind of been a calling card, whether it be at Finley or UNLV or here. I mean, let's play everybody. You know what I mean? There's challenges out there to be had, and we never want to run from competition. We want to go and stretch ourselves. Let's see what we look like at Michigan State or at Kansas. Why not? And that's always been a big belief of mine is we need to instill enough belief in our players, enough belief in ourselves that when we step on those floors, there's not a, oh golly gee, I hope we win mentality. That's not what we're about at all. Like we're coming, we're going to come to fight, and it's going to be us scrapping and clawing and doing everything we can to get a victory. And anything short of that, we're going to be disappointed, and that's just our mentality. We got chips on our shoulder. None of us were really, invited to the big picture, and we got to all fight our way into it. And that's kind of the program that we want.
And the NCAA got to see that on a national level when you guys knocked off Nebraska. Obviously, that overtime game, big thriller out in the Big Ten. And from that contest, what do you feel like last year's team really took away from that? Just being able to get that huge win out on the road against a Power 5 team early.
Well, it was a huge deal for us as we wanted to establish that we're going to be an elite defensive team. We're going to be an elite rebounding team. We're going to control those things. We're going to be tough as nails. And I think that game validated a lot of what we were working toward, and we became that in our league. And I think that's something that will stay with our program throughout. That toughness and that gritty defensive mindset will now be part of our culture. And here, if you do these things, you can have success. And I think the Nebraska game validated that. Like, hey, we can not play great, and we can not make a bunch of shots and still win big games if we play this way. And that's kind of what that game was. It wasn't a pretty game, but we fought like crazy, and I think that really established us in a defensive mindset going forward. And I think that'll stay with our program now for the rest of the way.
Jumped ahead a little bit with the Nebraska game. Wanted to circle back real quick to the end of the 2019-20 season. You guys qualify for postseason. We have some postseason games here. Only the second time ever Southern Utah has played in the postseason for men's basketball, and got to have 2 home games out of it. There was a lot of fans in the arena for those. Kind of go back to those nights, and how much fun was it to have postseason here in Cedar, and have Cedar City fans experience what postseason basketball is like for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, it still gives me goosebumps. I still think about that feeling of walking. We didn't know how it was going to draw. I mean, you get about a day or two to market it, and you just kind of hope that people will come and support and understand. Like, hey, there's really not a huge percentage of college basketball when you consider 353 Division I teams that get to play in the postseason. It's not like college football where there's 900 bowls and everyone gets a trophy, so it's a little bit different. And so for us, it was a big deal. We walk out of the tunnel and all of a sudden the America First Event Center is packed, and that feeling, our players, the looks on their faces was like, wow, okay, we've arrived. The program, people believe in it, and they appreciate it. And those are cool feelings for student athletes, for coaches, for programs to say, hey, wow, okay, we've done something and this is special. And I remember the opponents we played Drake and Cal State Bakersfield and their staffs and their coaches saying, hey, we're never going to come back. But pretty special, and that's what we want. We want to protect our home court. We want people to come in here and say, wow, that's a tough place to play, and their fans are passionate, and they play hard, and they everybody here is about it, and that's what that night, that first game reminds me of.
Taking a quick break here to tell you about Jimmy John's, one of our sponsors here on the Storm the Sky podcast. Jimmy John's is a proud supporter of SU Athletics. Get freaky fast sandwiches today by ordering online or with the app for freaky fast delivery, or visit them at 1001 West 200 North. That's Jimmy John's right here in Cedar City, a proud supporter of the Storm the Sky podcast. And now back to the show. It's been cool to see that build through your guys' tenure, and it really culminated to me the UVU game last year, and the intro video is playing, and it is so loud in there, and I go to our marketing guy and I say, hey, crank up the volume on that, and he radios up for the volume to go up, and he says, it's as loud as it'll go. And I literally could not hear it, and I was like, well, then that's incredible. So
yeah, that was a special game. It was just another one of those moments where you just feel the faith in the program and the love from the students. The student body was just off the charts. I mean, wow. I mean, I look back at my college experience and I say, something that's very special, whether you love sports or not, but that school pride, the spirit of rooting for your school together with 1,600, 1,800 or whatever the amount of students was, those are where you get your memories. Yeah. The Thursday night Netflix session is not going to be on your memory list, but coming together as students and cheering and willing us to victory in an exciting game, because we needed it that game, and that crowd carried us over the top. That was special. That was a very special night.
Not to bring us down to earth a little bit here, but last year, obviously on track to do all these same things, postseason berth, win in the first round of the Big Sky tournament. Who knows what happens from then? But then it all just kind of stops. And, as a coach, how often do you go back and think about what could have been at the end of last season?
Yeah, we're going into February. We're kind of a game out of first, and we were just ravaged with illness and sickness and injuries, and all of a sudden you're just like, what in the world? We're we had a lot of stuff going on and tragedies, and we came together as a unit throughout those times, and then all of a sudden, kind of toward the last week of the year, we go to Montana, and more bodies are on the floor. We're moving again. The clouds were kind of clearing up a little bit, and you felt pretty good, and get a big win at Montana, which we haven't done in years, and then we go to the tournament and everybody's practicing on that floor. I remember practicing at Boise, and I sat there and said to our staff, I said, this is really happening. And I said to a couple of players, and they kind of had the same vibe, like, hey, we're at full strength, and we haven't been this way, and people haven't seen us this way, and we're really feeling good right now. Like, this is really going to happen for us. And so the confidence was at an all-time high, which was a cool feeling. And then obviously after that first game, it was like, well, you got to be kidding me. It just wasn't meant to be. But I think just our guys knowing, hey, that we kind of ended that thing feeling pretty good about our game and where we were going helped. I think that helped alleviate the situation.
It was interesting talking with Dre, and we were talking about that, and he was quick to point out one of the best things that kind of came from that was your guys' GPA that came out of that. Obviously, guys get sent home, finish classes online, but your guys came together and put together the best GPA we've had since you guys have been here. And just how proud of you. Let me backtrack there a little bit, struggling with my words. How impressed were you with what the guys were able to finish the semester out like online?
Yeah, it's a challenge, and you guys can go any which way when adversity hits, and you just feel proud for the guys that, we always talk about the things that they can control in their life, which is their attitude and effort. And, their season, everything they worked for kind of was on pause. And instead of, dwelling on those negatives. They just, put on a positive attitude and proceed forward. And for those seniors who will always wonder what could have been here in their last go round, are they finished all on time. They graduated on time in the spring. They didn't do a woe is me type of deal. They did what they're supposed to do and handled their business, and that's why they're going to be successful in life. And that's what really supersedes everything we're doing here. It's really, you say it's a 4-year plan or a 40-year plan, but it's really a forever plan. And we want guys to, to impact their next generation and their next generation in their own lives. So that part of it we were pretty proud of.
When you look at these guys moving on and either playing professional basketball or getting jobs, in 20 years when they look back and think about you, what do you kind of want them to be their lasting memories of you as a coach?
Well, I would hope, that there's a relationship that can go on forever, even if it's 30 years down the road. Hey, coach, I need help. Or, hey, what do you think of this? Or just to have, we don't necessarily communicate every day with a lot of our former guys, but, just to be able to pick up the phone or shoot a text and, something that reminds you of a distant memory, just to have that relationship. I think that's so much of what this is about. As I go forward, get a little older, and this is just about having those shared experiences and having a brotherhood that crosses generations of players. You guys don't play together here, or hopefully have a shared experience and can rely on one another and create a network for one another to have success in life. And that's the main thing for me is, okay, what's how are these guys going to be down the road, and what can they take from this experience that maybe when an adversity hits or there's something that's great in their life that they feel comfortable enough to continue to share and have that bond.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Coach, thanks for taking the time with us today. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you what you and the kids have been playing on Xbox recently. Are you still getting them, or are they starting to figure it out?
Yeah, no, I mean, with 2K, I'm going to be a problem in 2K. We've had a lot of fun. It's not fair with being a coach and running offense in 2K and making teams guard and doing all of our concepts but no, we have a blast, and I think there might be a soon to be had men's basketball 2K bracket. Just want to see where the coaching staff lines up against some of these young fellas that like to talk a lot about how good they are. So we might have to find that out.
See, I want in on that, and go tell Bryce right now I want him in the first round.
That's a must. That's a big ticket. That's a big ticket to watch for sure.
All right, Coach, we appreciate you. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, thanks. Thanks for joining us today here on the Storm the Sky podcast. Thanks to Coach Simon for stopping by. We'll be back next week with episode 3, and we want to thank our presenting sponsor for episode 2 here one more time, Best Western. When you're coming to Cedar City for a Thunderbird sporting event, Best Western Plus and Best Western Town and Country are the places to stay. Both offer SU discounts. Thank you, Best Western, and we will see you next time right here on the Storm the Sky podcast.